You're listening to The Luxury Item, the podcast on the business of luxury and the people and companies that are shaping the future of the luxury industry. Here's your host, Scott Kerr.
Luxury travel trailers are having their moment. With international air travel from the U.S. put on hold, it's been boom time for the Great American Road Trip and for recreational vehicles, or RVs as they're called, which have been selling out across the nation as cooped-up U.S. residents take to the highway for adventure. Luxury has become the privacy you're afforded, and elite travelers are paying top dollar for the privacy afforded by luxury recreation vehicles. According to the latest industry statistics, sales of all RVs for 2021 are likely to reach more than 576,000, up from a very strong 430,000 in 2020. That's almost a 35% increase. Sales of the largest and most expensive motorhomes and trailers were in decline right up until the pandemic, but they've since rebounded spectacularly. More and more companies are reinventing the RV concept with streamlined and stylish vehicles, off-grid capabilities, and ultra-luxe amenities that make it easy to indulge your wanderlust without sacrificing the finer things in life. One ultra-luxury RV company that's been capturing the attention of affluent American outdoor lovers is Bowlus. Bowlus travel trailers feature modern technology and exterior design with Art Deco roots from the 1930s. Bowlus history stretches back almost 90 years to when designer and aircraft builder Hawley Bowlus, who oversaw the construction for Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, created a sensation with the first aluminum-riveted trailer in 1934. Bowlus ended up going bankrupt a few years later, but was brought back to life by my guest today on The Luxury Item. Geneva Long is founder and CEO of Bowlus. While studying at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, Geneva first conceptualized her company after a cross-country trip with her parents in a restored 1935 Bowlus Road Chief. She eventually resurrected the iconic Bowlus brand in 2014 with the goal of elevating the travel experience for 21st century adventurers by reimagining that original aluminum travel trailer as today's most advanced RV. In 2020, Geneva was selected as a member of the Forbes 30 Under 30 list and is the first female founder of an RV brand. Welcome to The Luxury Item, Geneva.
Thank you so much, Scott. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. You know, the story behind how the rebirth and relaunch of this 90-year-old Bowlus brand all came about is really fascinating. I talk a little about it in the opening, but I was wondering if you could share with the audience the story behind it and how it all came about.
Absolutely. The Bowlus has a fascinating history that starts in 1934 with ties to the Spirit of St. Louis and Hollywood stars like Clark Gable and Carol Lombard. More importantly, it's the first riveted aluminum RV, and of course, yes, the one copied by all the others. When I first started with the idea of reimagining the brand over 10 years ago, I felt the need to also create a performance luxury market, since one did not exist in the RV industry except for two players in the $1 million plus coach segment, which I would say are more luxury than performance. No one was challenging the RV industry's very traditional thinking that bigger is better, or the concept that luxury is defined by granite countertops and lazy boy recliners. They're also the RV industry that is known for poor quality. And compared to the automotive market, it would be as if no luxury automobiles existed, with everyone driving a Ford or GM product from the 1970s. As a result, the sophisticated buyer was looking for performance and luxury and didn't see themselves as RV owners or campers. We created this category, which we called luxury land travel, because that's the experience that design and product features of the Bowlus delivered.
Back then, did you see a trend that was going on that you saw the need for something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a trend for a long time. I think everyone, the pandemic has sort of allowed us to have a bunch of new buyers that discovered this wonderful secret that we've known for a while, which is luxury land travel, and of course that's exciting. But there's many others who already knew about that secret, or not so secret anymore,
Right.
many years ago as well. So absolutely, it's a trend that's only continued to explode.
I know the original story, you were traveling with your parents, and I think they actually restored a 1935 Road Chief. How did that come about?
Yeah, so my parents have always been collectors of streamlined modern vehicles specifically. And of course, the Bowlus fits perfectly in that category, and was really the best of the best, not only the first, but also the highest quality in the 30s itself.
Hmm.
And so that restoration started and lasted for quite some time to restore it to 1930s perfection. And then we took a trip with it in over 10 years ago at this point, across the country, and the reaction to it was just, absolutely wonderful. I think that the shape and obviously it's an incredibly beautiful automobile, really brings that sense of adventure
Hmm.
for everyone seeing it. And that was at the point that the idea was sparked, and we went away and did prototyping and design to design the modern Bowlus, which, although has that wonderful design DNA from the 30s, is still a very different vehicle. It's taller, it's longer, and of course, it has all the
Right.
modern conveniences to it. And when we did that, the vehicle, the modern Bowlus, was born. And that a lot of the important parts of the 1930s Bowlus have continued to modern day. We continue to offer the very best in fit and finishes. We offer the ability to tow the Bowlus with your favorite luxury vehicle, and be off grid with excess amounts of power, so you can work and travel as you wish. It really changes the way that someone can even explore
So,
in modern times as well.
so is it hard to acquire the rights to the Bolus name?
The original trademarks were zombie trademarks, and though they were never officially trademarked in the 1930s, they're
Hmm.
of course remembered as a heritage brand,
Right.
especially since it's the first riveted travel trailer. And generally, bringing back such a legacy brand is no simple feat. However, in our case, we're delighted to hold all these trademarks related to our brand now.
Right. So how many of those original trailers still exist?
About half of the originals still exist. Most of them are in private collections. And without a doubt, aircraft construction methods and 2024 T3 aluminum exteriors contributed to that longevity of the Bowlus. But the last restored Bowlus sold at Gooding's auction for 189,000.
Hmm.
So, which is interesting. Originally they sold for 1,200,
Right.
which was quite the price back then. So Boluses are definitely seen as the ultimate RV to collect, and like you mentioned, we have that 1935.
So the new Bolus travel trailers still have that teardrop shaped aerodynamic design and gleam polish riveted aluminum construction like the 1930s model. So how closely did you stick to the original look and design for the new version?
We stayed very true to the design DNA, in particular the shape. But it's important to remember, above all else, the bolus is still a vehicle. So that aerodynamic shape of the bolus means that, for example, today's Tesla X can tow it for 175 to 200 miles per charge. And
Hmm.
just for reference, a 10-foot shorter aluminum travel trailer of another brand will deplete the Tesla charge after about 50 to 75 miles.
Hmm.
So really an excellent example of how great engineering stands the test of time. And of course, the bolus shell is completely enclosed, which provides another advantage as well. So we kept that same design throughout that time. And on the interior, we felt we needed to define RV luxury. And while the 1930s bolus was very advanced for its time, the icebox needed to, of course, be updated to what you'd expect from a performance luxury automobile.
Yeah, which leads me to the question, did you make any changes to the design to adapt to the needs of basically today's traveler?
Yes. So the original bolus, compared to the modern day bolus, got taller. It got wider, and of course, because it's a monocoque design, when one thing changes, everything changes. And then we updated it with the ability to go off grid for a long period of time. The original bolus did not have a bathroom, so of course that got added for the modern traveler. And we were the first to add wonderful features like heated floors, live work solutions like charging stations, routers, Wi-Fi amplifiers, and lithium power with sophisticated power management systems. So, of course, those weren't quite despite existing in the 1930s. So we updated it with the best quality of those as well.
So during the pandemic, as you're working on new models, have you gotten requests from customers or potential customers asking for things that are more relevant to the way people are living today in a post-pandemic world?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I'd love to mention the Terra Firma edition, which we just released as a great example. We launched the Terra Firma in, I believe, early 2021, and that's proven to be our most successful launch to date. Terra Firma takes our performance edition and further merges technology and craftsmanship. And it provides enhancements including air and water filtration systems, pet-friendly additions such as remote temperature monitoring, and food bowls and beds for dogs, as well as a smart brake controller, touchscreen power management, and GPS tracking. And comes with a beautiful all new color story. And I think that really speaks to, we listened to that feedback that our customers were giving, and that product really speaks to those needs. We found more people were looking to travel to extended periods of time. They were looking to bring along all members of their family, including their pets, and those features we're really excited to include in that Terra Firma.
So how many models? You have the Terra Firma. What other models do you have there?
We have 3 models.
Right.
We have the Endless Highways, we have the Endless Highways Performance Edition, and we have the Terra Firma.
So now that you've overseen the launch of 3 different models since founding the company, what are some of the most important things that you've learned about building a luxury brand?
What has been critical is having a clear vision of what I want to achieve, and to deviate from that as little as possible. I think it's important to never compromise on what you feel is vital to your users. And in our world, our buyers are very astute and recognize quality. It's almost like a silent language. We all know it when we see it, but one needs to understand it to do what we do.
And Bowlus to me is like one of I call them the sleeping beauty brands. Brands that have been dormant for a while, that we retain the potential brand equity that can be conjured up in the minds of consumers by basically re-articulating the brand's heritage. And sometimes brand revivals are met with mixed results. What was your reactivation strategy around a heritage brand like Bowlus?
Yeah, great question. Our reactivation strategy leaned heavily into digital acquisition and PR. We had some really fantastic experiences with some wonderful members of the press early on, and they, of course, review everything and can really know that quality when they see it. And of course, when you have a product as unique and beautiful as the Bowlus, it makes getting out your message just a little bit easier.
So I'm sure many of the customers probably never even heard of Bowlus. So I'm assuming that was helpful, no?
Absolutely, yeah. Having a brand like Bowlus that hadn't existed since the 1930s, there was definitely that educational component of the history to share with everyone. And I think it's such a wonderful story of Bowlus being the original, and not necessarily a story everyone knows, but is excited to hear about. So that was definitely a part of our reactivation strategy as well.
And Bowlus relaunched in an RV industry that has been seen quite a bit of consolidation and has become highly competitive among the dominant players. So how does Bowlus uniquely position itself against other luxury trailer brands like Airstream and Living Vehicle or Spacecraft?
So a great question. We generally are not positioned against anyone. The 3 you mentioned are about the idea that bigger is better.
Mhm.
And like I mentioned earlier in our conversation, that's not something we ascribe to here at Bowlus, because a bigger size also means significant limitations. Often buyers who have never owned an RV don't realize that these behemoths will really limit their adventures. For instance, anything over 26 feet is usually too long to fit in the national parks and many state parks as well. So that means that the owners of larger RVs have to stay at those big campgrounds you might have seen outside the parks. For our owners, that's not part of their travel fantasy. They want to be in the middle of it all. And something like the other brands that you mentioned come in around 16,000 to 18,000 pounds compared to the Bowlus at 4,000 pounds, which means you have to ditch your luxury vehicle and purchase a giant pickup because that's simply what's required to tow it. Giant RVs are not that much fun to drive. So you need to consider that when you go to think about what type of adventure you're looking for. And again, the three you mentioned tend to lend themselves more like a home than a vehicle. For example, Airstream's new model, designed by Pottery Barn, is by nature who Pottery Barn serves,
Right.
which is not a luxury execution. And the living vehicle and spacecrafts, granite style like countertops are all reminiscent of traditional McMansions. So it's our demographic and our owners already have stunning homes, and they're not necessarily looking for another home. They're looking for the fusing of performance and luxury, which isn't possible when you see an RV as a home instead of a vehicle. Our owners want to be in that national park, having that complete experience instead of visiting from outside a campground.
Yeah. And sales of luxury recreational vehicles soared last year, and the momentum doesn't seem to be stopping this year. So, what has been the zeitgeist that has been driving a lot of these RV sales?
For our owners, our owners are people who have seen the world but not necessarily experienced domestic luxury land travel here in America and Canada. They visited the large cities, but they haven't had those unique experiences that happen along the way or are hidden off the major highways. Most are craving the signature national and state parks adventures. Many haven't experienced incredible drives like Pacific Coast Highway. This group has not, for instance, experienced, that wonderful fantasy and of course can be a reality of waking up with that, perfect latte made in your bolus while seeing an elk or moose trek by nearby, and those are incredible experiences that I think has been bringing lots of owners to the bolus and been driving RV premium sales as well.
Yes, I'm saying, so outside of Bowlus, do you think it's the pandemic effect of the outdoors being a safer place to be, or is it being able to maintain control over your surroundings while still getting out of your home and reconnecting with nature?
Yeah, so I think all of those things really speak to people. I think being able to travel in your own environment is such a special thing. I think the with something like a bolus, the freedom and flexibility and spontaneity that you can have while doing land travel is something really exciting. And I think during this time, we've all craved that spontaneity that seems to be missing from everyday life more than before.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really special thing about RV travel, and kind of like that secret I was mentioning earlier, of more people finding out about this way to travel. It allows flexibility to visit friends, family. Again, something that we've all not had as much of this year as we've been wanting. So it really provides that flexibility, that cocoon-like environment to feel safe adventuring in. And I think all of those are things that will continue as well.
So, how soon after the pandemic hit back in March of last year did Bowlus start getting a pickup of potential buyers interested in a travel trailer?
I would say right away, the pandemic allowed buyers like ours to take extended time off. So the interest in Bolus increased immediately. We operate differently than the rest of the RV industries because we build to order. So we're always selling out, several quarters, if not years in advance. So the pandemic didn't affect our ability to deliver quality or deliver on time. And unfortunately, we assumed the pandemic would continue as it has. So we've been quite prepared, and as a result, have not had late deliveries or RVs that are missing parts like the rest of the industry has experienced during this time.
But you had to ramp up production, right, to meet the demand?
So because we build to order, and we build such a special
Right.
product, it's not something that we ever look at in terms of ramping up, because that quality is so central to everything we do. So of course we had more orders, and we look to build on that, but in terms of a aggressive ramp up like you might have seen in the rest of the industry, that just doesn't fit into our core values or what is so important for us to deliver such a high quality product. And of course we've seen the effects of that in the rest of the industry in terms of ramping up, and many customers being quite disappointed in what that means for both the quality and timeline of them actually receiving their
So how
product.
so how long does it take to build an average travel trailer at Bowlus?
Well, we don't release our timeline, but it is
A range? Uh,
it's a wonderful loving crafts building process is what I can say.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is because with all this demand coming last year, people just want to, they want to hit the road already. Yeah, how long do you have to tell them they have to wait
Well,
to?
what I can say is that we are sold out much more in advance than we begin making them. So at this point, it's the demand for them that limits how soon a customer can get their bolus.
Right. So who is your average buyer?
Um, we attract customers over all age groups. We've definitely been seeing more people wanting to get out and enjoy nature in an RV, like we talked about. The same was true for an influx of first-time buyers. So while we don't release our numbers, we're seeing all across the age group, everyone from millennials purchasing a bolus all the way up. So, and also considering on how long a bolus lasts, it's a much better investment than a typical RV that may last you 7 to 10 years. So generally, whether our buyer is 35 or 55, they're looking for very similar features, looking to adventure off grid longer, looking to tow with that luxury car, looking to have ease of adventure and spontaneity, all of which the bolus can really provide.
So are the younger buyers looking to get into something different out of the RV experience than the older buyers?
I think, like I mentioned, there's a lot of flexibility, and that's something definitely our younger buyers are looking forward to. So whether it's one trip to go visit family and maybe stay on their ranch, or it's another trip to go to a national park we've all wanted to. We also have many customers who are using their bolus to travel between homes and stay at destinations along the way they've never considered. So I think that desire for why we all adventure is similar. And of course, people have their own special take on what makes that experience special for them, and what type of activities they like to do along the way.
Are you currently developing any new products that it will appeal to this new generation of luxury RV buyers?
So we just launched that terra firma a few
Right,
months ago, and
right.
that was absolutely in development to appeal to that new generation of luxury buyers. I already mentioned some of those enhancements, but absolutely that's something we always look to, and Bolus always has um, you know the highest quality materials and the most forefront of technology, and so those things are always things we look to include as we continue.
Well, earlier we were talking about Airstream collaborating with Pottery Barn. Is there anything in the works for collaboration with other, like-minded luxury lifestyle brands or experiences for Bolus?
We always look to collaborate and make really special experiences for our customers around other like-minded luxury lifestyle brands. I think for example, we did a partnership with Bentley when they launched the Bentayga. We also were one of Neiman Marcus's items in their holiday book last
Right,
year, and
that's right.
yeah, we always welcome the opportunity to work with luxury designers in the interior fashion space.
So unbiased opinion. So do you think the popularity of RVs is here to stay, and why?
For for the luxury performance segment, the answer is a strong yes. The luxury traveler wants to travel with pets, their favorite food, their favorite wine on their schedule. I think these travelers are leery of hotels and domestic air travel. As one of our buyers said, if the bed bug situation, nice hotels was the cake, then COVID's been the icing, ending that comfort level with hotels. I think the future is solid for luxury RVing and the way we address it at Bolus. That audience is not drawn to historical luxury signifiers like size or oversized recliners like you see in the rest of the industry. They're looking for that RV that not only inspires them but also shares their values. That means they're seeking an RV that's well designed and built with features that anticipate their needs and wants, like the terra firma. that we launched this year. And only Bowlus really speaks to those needs, as it can offer that seamless luxury land travel experience. And we're very grateful. We can already see that the future will be exciting for luxury land travel at Bowlus.
Well, I hope so. So my final question, which I ask all my guests, is the luxury item question. So if you were stranded on a deserted island and you could only have one luxury item with you, what would that luxury item be? It can't be any form of air transportation. It can't be an amphibious Bowlus travel trailer to get you off that island or anything that requires mobile service. So what would that one luxury item be that you would have on that
Well,
deserted
Scott, I
island?
mean, I have to say a Bowlus. So, I'd love to be stranded in a Bowlus. I can't imagine how wonderful the solar panels would work, and enjoying hot showers and all those other fabulous features while on a deserted island would be pretty fantastic. But if that wasn't possible, I would have to say, our signature linen bedding. It's organic and GOTS certified, and I would love to have a wonderful night's sleep under the stars.
Oh, that'd be nice on the sand. Just put it out there on the sand.
Yeah,
That sounds
exactly.
comfortable. So, Geneva Long, founder and CEO of Bowlus, thank you so much for joining me on the luxury item.
Thank you so much, Scott.
That's it for this episode of the Luxury Item Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful and entertaining, I would be really grateful if you can share it with a friend or colleague. I would love it if you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other listeners find us. The Luxury Item Podcast is a production of Silvertone Consulting. I'm your host, Scott Kerr. Until next time.